What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Let's talk. Last night was the fourth and final night of the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, where my man Andrew Yang finally got to take the stage. He finally got to state his piece, and of course, in support of Joe Biden, he said some kind things, and we are going to be taking a look at those things here today. So I kind of actually want to play his entire, well, I won't play his entire speech. I'll play a couple of portions that I thought were actually really interesting. First, I want to say, after listening to many of the speakers, it seems like the exact same person wrote every single person's speech. I don't know. It could just be my ears and the way I heard everything, but it just sounded like the same person was putting together everyone's message. It seemed like that maybe they had a little bit of input, but for the most part, it almost seemed like the messages were pretty much identical. Like one person had an overarching theme, and then they parsed out who gets to say what. So let me take a second over here. We're gonna play the first. I mean, right off the bat, Yang, he just gets right into it. The first segment that I have here is from 18 seconds on. And I just love what he says. This is just a little short snippet. Let's go to the big board.
72% of Americans believe that this is the worst time we have ever experienced. And 42% of the jobs that have been lost, millions of jobs, will never return. We are in a deep dark.
So, sorry about that. Sorry for the double click. I just want to say, it was so refreshing to hear him start out with data. This entire event, I tried to watch this thing, but it was extremely boring. But I tried to watch this thing. It seemed incredibly rehearsed. Obviously, it wasn't a live event. You know, there was people kind of, I guess these were pre-recorded segments. There was even parts where you could see two different screens kind of interacting with each other. I think Yang's segment ended where he was speaking to, I can't remember who, some actress lady. But you could tell that these people weren't actually talking to each other. It seemed like, you know, there was a pre-recorded segment. They said, all right, Yang, say this, leave a long pause, and then say this. And it just felt very robotic. So it didn't really seem connected to the actual moment that we're in. Whereas Yang, one of the few times throughout the entire night where I heard someone reference like current data, he's actually referring to a study from, I think it was June of this year. Kind of talking about most Americans say that we're in the lowest point in U.S. history or in living memory. That's tragic, man. But it just was nice to feel like connected to the moment where we weren't just talking about any ambiguous time period, because it seems like even Joe Biden himself, like his speech and his whole campaign really is like a carbon cutout, and it could be pasted and cut from any election within the last 30 years that his message kind of fits. Like he doesn't really get too specific. You know, I guess nowadays he's kind of mentioning specific moments, but he doesn't really get too specific. Like tries to avoid the specifics. So it was nice to hear Yang talk about, hey, here's some recent data. This means I'm paying attention. Like, remember me? I used to keep up on things, and it was nice to hear somebody actually have that. Of course, he also kind of talks about. Well, let me go back because I didn't like the way that played out. It's only a few seconds.
That have been lost, millions were experienced. And 42% of the jobs that have been lost, millions of jobs, will never return.
42% of the jobs that are lost will never return. I almost feel like he wants to say, I told you so. He kind of alludes to it. You know, he talks about the future that he ran on is unfortunately upon us. I remember during the election saying, I don't know if people realize how dystopian his future sounds, because he was really bleak about, you know, the job loss and through automation and things like that. He didn't really seem excited. Like he was excited for the possibilities, but he was also extremely concerned that if we don't address things, we're going to possibly be putting ourselves in a very bad situation. And he's kind of going back to that message. But again, it feels like someone is approving these messages, because I can tell where Andrew Yang was like, hey, here's my amazing speech. And they were like, oh, no. You can have that line and you can have that line, but you got to stick to this message. And it continues. But like I said, it was nice, great opener. I just happy to hear Andrew. He sounds like he's paying attention. Um, Moving on to the 35-second.
Deliver. If you voted for Trump or didn't vote at all back in 2016, I get it. Many of us have gotten tired of our leaders seeming far removed from our everyday lives, and we despair that our government will ever rise to the challenges of our time.
I've got quite a few segments planned out for today. And one of them is kind of about this divisive nature of this campaign on really on both sides. And Yang, refreshingly again, was one of the only people who didn't refer to Trump supporters as like bad people because they supported something different. Like it wasn't necessarily that many people just loved Donald Trump. Maybe they just didn't love Hillary Clinton. Like that was also an option. Maybe you were just voting against someone else, or maybe you didn't necessarily believe the party that you typically would support actually had your best interests in mind. So Yang, again, listen, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that the party continues to let you down. I'm sorry that you feel like your elected officials ignore you. I'm kind of begging you to vote at this point because that's really the message I want to hear. I want to hear, look, we don't do a great job most of the time, but if you want to have a chance at a future, then we have to get rid of Donald Trump. Now, we're starting to get there. It was kind of the message of the Obama speech. Our democracy is at stake. This is a huge moment. We have to do something. Again, not heavy on policy, but there's that hope message in this whole thing. Is that Boyce in there? What's up, Boyce? How's it going, my guy? What was my next segment? I think that's all I wanted to cover. From this point on, it goes literally into the speech that whoever prepared, because I'll play you a quick second of it so you can hear it.
But we must give this country, our country, a chance to recover. And recovery is only possible with a change of leadership and new ideas. Bold and innovative policies that will get help into your hands in the midst of this crisis are now possible. But we need your help to turn the page for our country in 75 days. We are here tonight to celebrate Joe Biden's nomination as the Democratic candidate for president.
Did you see that? Did you notice how it like a switch just turned in that last line where he says, "We're here to celebrate Joe Biden"? Something happened. That's where they were like, "All right, Yang, you got yours off. Read the script, buddy." But even in his first opening remarks, it sounded like there was definitely some type of tinkering going on from a typical Yang speech. But by the way, like I said, I felt like he was refreshing. It was nice to hear him. Good to hear that he's kind of paying attention and he's got a positive outlook. But again, this is an election for just change because he doesn't feel like there's a real future with our current leadership. And like I said, if you had asked me 8 months ago who's winning this election, I told you Donald Trump. But over time, I've had to kind of drift to the fact that Americans are just unconcerned, or they're uncomfortable. They're nervous. They don't feel comfortable with the current leadership. One of the topics we're going to cover today is Trump on the whole Goodyear situation. Like, the guy's all over the place, and we have a lot going on. And some of the things that Trump concerns himself with are not issues that we want our president to be worried about. We want him to be leading the country, and instead he's like going back and forth on the internet. It's like super childish. So that was this portion of Yang's night. He also got to speak in this, I guess this was, again, like some kind of pre-recorded phone call with Cory Booker. It was like a forum of all the people who lost to Joe Biden. Again, super cringy. But Yang had this nice remark here. I'm going to go ahead and play this for you guys.
To the next administration.
The magic of Joe Biden is that everything he does becomes the new reasonable. If he comes with an ambitious plan to address climate change, all of a sudden, everyone's going to follow his lead. You can see it with him choosing Kamala, too. He wants to build the best team. Let's do it together. That's how we're going to rebuild this country.
Cory,
So, wait, was that them? Yeah, so that was Yang's genius remark. This idea that the smartest thing or the magic of Joe Biden is that everything he does becomes the new reasonable. Now, this is actually an interesting quote because I'm not sure if it's just, well, I know now, but it's a combination of being in juxtaposition of Donald Trump and his absurdities and also the field that he was actually running in, full of all of these extremely progressive ideas. Or I know we're not going to get into the weeds about the progressive thing, but the alleged progressive ideas of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, and then you have Donald Trump seeming to be the moderate in the field. So it put him square in the middle, and that's kind of what Andrew Yang is alluding to. But it also kind of speaks to the power in which Joe Biden yields. Like unlike all the other candidates, not just because he's the presumptive nominee, he has the backing of the establishment. So should he have any brilliant ideas, which we know he's not really going to have, but if he ever did, his ideas would actually become reasonable because he's Joe Biden. He is the former vice president. He's served under the most popular president in recent memory. So it would be great if he would have some great ideas. I just unfortunately think that at this point we can kind of tell that his policies and his platform are just kind of being given to him. But Yang is right. Whatever he says is the new normal or is the new moderate. It is a solid position. And as a result, we can actually get those things done. So quickly, just kind of tying this up, there is this Vox article, and here it says, in an argument that founders, since Americans just watched Biden win an extended primary campaign in which he was repeatedly assailed for failing to meet various win an extended primary campaign in which he was repeatedly assailed for failing to meet various progressive litmus tests. Matt Iglesias writes, Biden won the primary handedly by convincingly slapping a moderate label on a policy agenda that is nonetheless far bolder than the one pursued by Barack Obama or proposed by Hillary Clinton in 2016. I will actually kind of agree with that. I mean, even though it's not the progressive platform that many people wanted, he was forced to actually come with policy. I still think it's far too vague, and I feel like it's far too big and overreaching to actually accomplish many of the things that he has listed on his website. But I think that it's clear that at this point we're just kind of asking for, like, hey, I want it to feel like somebody's running for president. Because as I watched some of Donald Trump's latest ads, they're just wild. Like, you would not think that he's running for president of the United States. You would think he's running for, I don't know, like some kind of reality show, and he's trying to, if he comes up with the most outrageous stuff or he says the craziest things, then he's going to win a cash prize. You don't think he's actually running for president, but this guy is the president. He's running for re-election. Whereas Joe Biden, despite all his faults, he seems like a guy running for president, at least. Like, he seems like he's aware. And even though he might be completely off his rocker, at least the people around him are aware of the magnitude of the situation. Now, I can't tell you guys who to vote for. It's up to you. I mean, I'm not that kind of guy. But it is nice to hear that Andrew Yang at least feels comfortable endorsing the presidency or the candidacy of Joe Biden. And even though he can't offer the policies that Andrew Yang would have, Joe Biden at least kind of lays the foundation for us to have a normal future. And I don't know what the new normal is going to be. And I think that it seems clear that Andrew Yang should have some opportunity to serve in the Biden administration under some capacity. I don't know what that would be. I actually heard an interview where he was asked, kind of pushed to ask or to answer the question, what capacity he would serve in the Biden administration. He says he's willing. He says he's ready. He says he's interested in the technology, but he doesn't know where he would quite fit in. But he's definitely open. And I think if you have Yang on board in any capacity, at least as long as he's dealing with technology and the future, at least some of the issues that we're concerned about going forward are going to be addressed. And without at least a change of pace, regardless of who it is, I don't see things looking any better. Unfortunately, Trump is He is out there, man. He is really out there, man. I don't even like to bag on him. Like, I've given him credit for things, but just over the last few weeks, this guy is just, he's losing it for real. You want results. I feel you. How high did Yang the Future trend? I didn't see how high it trended. I did see that it was definitely a trending topic. I'm going to break out of here because I don't want to let this video linger too long, but I will be responding to you guys in the comments section below. So if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next segment.